Let's take a peek ahead at Week 17. Next on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Welcome to FFT in 5. I'm Chris Towers, and we're looking ahead to Week 17 of the fantasy football season. Try to help you out to beat the waiver wire for the fantasy football championships. And look, the first thing we have to talk about is we're in that weird part of the season. We got 3 weeks left, including Week 16, obviously, and teams are starting to figure out whether they've got something to play for the rest of the way. And look, the whole tanking discussion, the whole we're going to sit guys out, like teams are still mostly trying to win. Even the teams that have been eliminated, even the teams that are about to lock up playoff spots, the players on the field are going to win. But sometimes you're going to have situations where teams may decide, here's a good example, the Commanders. They benched Sam Howell last week, and we thought, oh, maybe this is Jacoby Brissett time for the next couple of weeks. Well, head coach Ron Rivera came out after the game and said, Sam Howell's still our starting quarterback. If we had something to play for and we were trying to win these games, if we were fighting for a playoff spot, maybe we would consider making a switch. But right now our focus, not a verbatim quote, but right now our focus is, making sure that we can develop Sam Howell and be as well positioned for 2024 as we can. Commanders are one of 6 teams that have been eliminated from the playoffs. Patriots, Panthers, Jets, Cardinals, Titans, and Commanders. Chargers, Raiders, Giants, and Bears are all effectively eliminated. They're all 2 games out at least with 3 games left. It's not impossible, extremely unlikely. And the 49ers could lock up the number 1 seed in the NFC with a win in Week 16 and losses by the Cowboys, Eagles, and Lions. So they could have effectively nothing to play for in Week 17 and Week 18. You look around the rest of the league, though, that means 21 teams are either within a game of a playoff spot or locked into the playoffs right now and fighting for seeding. So there is a ton at stake around the NFL. That's what happens when you have multiple playoff teams with a 7-7 record with 3 games left. Nobody's really running away with things. So there's still a lot to play for. We shouldn't have a lot of teams resting the final couple of weeks, but obviously those things will come into focus. And, you look at the Jets or the Cardinals or the Titans, and it wouldn't be a surprise if we start to see some guys lower on the depth chart get some opportunities. Maybe on the Jets, Israel Abanikanda could see more opportunities down the stretch as they try to see what they have in him. I don't think it'll come at the expense of Breece Hall, but maybe we see some of those Dalvin Cook snaps go to Izzy Abanikanda. The Commanders, maybe they don't rush Brian Robinson back from this hamstring injury that's clearly lingering. So those are some things to keep in mind as we move forward. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is if you're going to be playing into Week 17, this is it. Some of you play in Week 18, but for the most part, this is it. You don't have to worry about dropping someone and they turn into a contributor for your opponent. If you've got boring bench pieces like Jerry Jeudy and Miles Sanders, go ahead and cut them, because it's very unlikely that these guys are going to emerge within the next 3 days as someone that you really regret dropping. So make sure that you're using your bench for the best DSTs, quarterback insurance options, and the best running back handcuffs specifically, because as we've seen the last few weeks, guys like Zamir White, that opportunity can be very, very valuable. So some names to keep in mind. Go ahead and drop the Lions DST, the Patriots DST, the Dolphins, and the Ravens DST. They've all got bad matchups in Week 17. You're not going to want to use them. So those are the 4 that you can go ahead and drop as long as you don't need them this week. And for the most part, you're not going to. Some running backs to consider picking up who, are just very low risk and, low probability bets, but are worth keeping an eye on. Isaiah Spiller, we saw him get a bigger role in Week 14 or Week 15 for the Chargers. Maybe that turns into him being kind of the 1B behind Austin Eckler. Chris Rodriguez, I think he's going to be the lead back for the Commanders with Brian Robinson out. If you're absolutely desperate, maybe he sparks this week and looks like someone you want to use in Week 16 or Week 17 as the Commanders look towards the future, see what they have there. Demario Douglas, 40% rostered. Wan'Dale Robinson, 20% rostered. Treylon Burks, 11% rostered. Those are all talented young players who are on teams with nothing to play for. So it could be a situation where we see a bigger role for them down the stretch. And in Week 16, if they pop, all of a sudden, you could have a potentially useful fill-in for week 17 if you need it. Some DSTs to keep in mind with an eye on week 17. Here's a surprising one. The Bears DST has been really good lately. 18 plus points in 3 straight heading into week 16, 10 plus every week since week 10. And they've got the Falcons in week 17. The Bears are only 31% rostered. If you've got a roster spot to play with, consider adding them because this defense has been much better since the trade deadline when they added talent along the defensive line. They've got some playmakers in the secondary. They're forcing some turnovers. And the Falcons, anytime you're waffling back and forth between Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder, that's an offense that you probably want to take advantage of from the DST perspective. A couple others with good matchups. The Rams in week 17, they've got the Giants. 47% rostered are the Rams. And they played on Thursday night, so it might be hard to pick them up. But if your league does allow that, consider that. And the Jaguars, 56% rostered. They've got the Panthers. Jaguars defense has been a little up and down this season, but there's a lot of talent there. And the Panthers are obviously a team you want to target for your DSTs. And that's going to do it for FFT5. We'll be back tomorrow morning, talk about the latest injuries and start sit concerns that you've got heading into week 16. We'll see you then.